Wait a minute, the bulldog off the top. This is how Masha and Alisha won the titles at Under Siege, and it's how they retain and against all odds.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am very good, thank you. So I wanted to start with something a little bit different.
Okay.
I have been told your Wikipedia page is quite wrong.
Yeah, there's a few things wrong with it. I mean, one of the biggest things I think is the Bobby Roode. I haven't Wikipedia myself since the last time I spoke with Simon and them, because that was like a regular question that I would get on these media things is about the Bobby Roode thing. Are you on it now? Is that what you're asking?
So it says that you were trained by Bobby Roode. It also says that you debuted in 2006, but according to Cage Match, it was 2004.
No, that's not. Like, I had a match in 2006, so that's about right. And then the Bobby Roode thing is definitely not right. I don't even know where the hell that came from, to be honest.
So who did train you?
I don't even think I've ever met him, to be honest. Like, I like literally, like, I'm like, I might have met him like through like passing, but like nothing like officially. So it's not even like a connection where it would make sense. People would think that I was trained with him. Oh, who was I trained by? Like, it's not. And that's the embarrassing part is like, because I wasn't really trained by one person. Like, I was kind of like molded with a bunch of people. I don't even know who to put on that.
Did you go to a training school?
I mean, we could go with chaotic wrestling, I guess.
Cool.
Just put that on there. That's probably better than Bobby Roode, where it's no connection at all.
I'd love to know how it ended up with Bobby Roode. That is very...
I know. I really don't. Like, someone asked me that random like years ago, and then I never thought of it. And then like it was like a question that was like, if I did more media, like people would keep asking. Yeah. And I'm like, where do you guys find this? And I think there was that one time someone was like, your Wikipedia says it. And I'm like, God, I didn't never Wikipedia myself. Maybe I should to make sure these things are accurate.
The other thing it says, I want to make sure it's correct. It says you're 37.
I'm 37, yes.
Cool. And you were born in San Diego.
No, I was born in New Bedford, Mass.
So how is that?
Massachusetts. Yeah, I have no idea.
Cool. So we can get that changed. That's all good.
Yeah. I mean, we can even just say Boston, Mass, too. So then it doesn't really need to know where I was literally born from. You know what I mean? It just matches my character for Boston rather than like the South Shore of Boston.
So I think one of the things that surprised me when I was kind of doing a bit of research was I don't think a lot of people realize how long you've been doing this for. Because to some people, when you debuted with TNA, I
was just the wife of Eddie. Yeah. And when they debuted me, really, like, I was on like the Knockouts Knockdown as like a wrestler, but then like on actual weekly television, it was just as Eddie's wife. Yeah. And then it was like I slowly started wrestling. So I don't think they ever really talked about my past because of how we started my start at TNA, if that makes sense.
So how did you get into wrestling? Like, what was that start for you?
I had a friend that she's an indie wrestler right now. We met in 4th grade, and she has like that generic story of like, you know, watching wrestling since she was little with her grandma. So like, I would go over to her house for a sleepover, and I'm like, "What are you watching?" And she's like, "Wrestling. Don't you know wrestling?" I'm like, "No, I don't. Like, what do we watch? Like grown men in underwear? Like, this is not fun." As I started like hanging out with her more, we would watch it more. And then I kind of got hooked. It was the Attitude Era. So who wouldn't love wrestling at that time? We were lucky enough to have like an indie wrestling place, which that's where I trained. But it's just like, it's not very prestigious is what the word would be. But like, it was like an indie spot we went to. I started going to indie shows. And then that's kind of where I fell in love with the storytelling, the interaction with the fans and all that stuff. And then I realized if you have to if you want to do all that, you kind of have to wrestle. And I was like, dude, I don't want to do the wrestling part. I just want to go out there and entertain people. And like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of was like, and then I slowly got into it, but like, it was never really serious about it. Like, as in like, I wanted to do it for my job, kind of. And then things just happened. Like, I met Nikki Rocks, which she was very serious because she was at TNA at the time. I got my first enhancement match in 2008 against Kong in TNA through Nikki Rocks. And then I met, like, Eddie. And, like, you know, at that time, it was, like, he was killing it on the indies with all those East Coast people like Slick Wagner Brown, John Walters, and all those people. So like I would pick their brain. Things just happened. So every stage of my life, just something happened where it just would hook me a little bit more somehow. And then fast forward, TNA called me about Eddie. And then every year I evolved differently there. And then fast forward, we're like almost at 10 years with TNA. Eddie did it for a while before I did. So
I was going to say, at what point did you kind of realize you could do this as a career?
I mean, I guess like in adulthood, like probably like when I was like but it was a lot different to get hired when I first started.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a lot different now, like with AEW open their gates, like it opened a lot of jobs for people. So it's definitely different. I mean, I knew I could always do it, but it was just always to wait for the right opportunity and the right time, right? Because that was always the thing. You always had to know the right person at the right time and be at the right place at that same time. You know what I mean? And that's usually was very hard to come across. But now it's a lot different. So I think it's kind of like when wrestling evolved and knew that, you know, even now, like, look, we have women as ring announcers and commentary. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that wasn't when I first started. It was just like one women's match on the show, and that was really it. So, I mean, I guess it's like when the business started evolving, then I knew things would kind of be a little different.
If you weren't doing wrestling, what would you have done?
Probably like be like a little event planner, because like behind the scenes, I'm like still doing that. Like I'm party mom. I keep everyone kind of like fun and doing things, and I'm always keeping busy. So I don't know, maybe like a little event planner, or I don't know. I like to help people. So I always thought like social work and stuff, but yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I think wrestling's kind of part of me at this point.
So who was that first wrestler that you saw that you were like, I want to be like them?
Oh, Austin, 100%.
I feel like that's everyone's answer these days.
Yeah, so I was like Austin, and then like if we're gonna talk about like females, like at that time it was like Trish and Lita at the time, and I thought like Trish was more of like the bombshell, and then Lita was like the misfit of it, which I kind of feel myself in between. So I would kind of like, when I was watching wrestling, I knew the real people that knew how to wrestle, like at that time where, you know, women's wrestling was just bra and panties at the time, like Gail Kim and a Victoria and a Molly Holly. Every wrestler gave me different areas of why I wanted wrestling. Like Austin was more of the storytelling and like in your face attitude, and like Gail Kim and Molly Holly and Victoria were more of like actually being able to wrestle, and like Rey Mysterio was more on like the little guy that can still do what everybody else can do. So I mean, like, it was just always different, and everyone brought a different thing to the table, and that's why I love wrestling too. You know, I might not be strong in one position, but then I'm also like, you know, you can't teach people how to work a crowd or be able to entertain, right? Like you could teach someone to go out there and do a million things, and that might do anything, but does the crowd connect to them? Maybe not.
So you've been like a mainstay with TNA now since like 2017. And when you came in, it was very much women's wrestling. I mean, TNA was always women's wrestling is a big thing.
Correct.
But the rest of the industry was very much still transitioning from that Divas era to where they are now. So what was that like for you being part of TNA when it was just, you know, women's wrestling was just the norm? It was, everyone was, you know, equal on the card.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean, I don't, like, to be able to be there. I mean, my role was a little different because it wasn't like I was hired as a wrestler. So I was like the wife. So like at that point, which I think is great because I was very, not discouraged, but like I wasn't sure if I had a spot in the division. Like I was Eddie Edwards' wife, right? And I was only brought in to do some storylines at the time. And then as things kind of like, you know, got, you know, hey, she did great in that storyline. Let's, you know, see what she can do here and stuff. I think as time went, it just made me more encouraging to be able to put in the work to earn my spot. So I think right now is the time where I'm like, okay, this is my spot and I worked for it. And then now I'm even more proud to be a part of the division because now it's not just be, you know, wrestling or whatever. It's just a whole, right? Like, yeah. TNA only, like with the knockouts, not only did they prove that they were wrestlers, but they did the whole thing. So I think they're just the total package, which I think is great. And I think that's what makes our division different. Like, yeah, we have like Jordan that, you know, does those 5-star matches. And then we have like a couple people that just do the character work and stuff. And that's what makes us different from any other division. Like we could say we have the best, any women's division say we have the best, whatever, you know what I mean? But I don't know. In my opinion, I think we're just the total package.
Yeah. I should say, when you came in, you were kind of Eddie's wife, and that was the storyline. Do you feel like you had a lot of pressure on you to prove yourself after that? mainly to the fans, but you were more than that.
100%. I think each and every time I had to prove myself. So I came in, and then he turned into, with Honor No More. And like at that point, I stood on the other side, and I was like, damn, like I really wish I could be with him. But I honestly think at this time, to like look back at it now, it worked out perfectly in the way it did, because then it made me involved. It made me be able to do things without Eddie. And then now that me and Eddie are together, it just makes it even more natural and organic. Like it wasn't like we were just thrown together because we're husband and wife.
I think also with you, the pandemic era, as much of a crap period it was for everyone, you kind of shone a lot during that era.
Yeah, I just said this earlier. It's like COVID was definitely a blessing in disguise for me. Like at that time, I wasn't being booked regularly. It would just be like when Eddie needed his wife in a storyline. COVID happened, and then it was like they needed everyone on deck. So I was being booked more frequently because of what was going on in the real world. And then Wrestle House is kind of where things started for me, because that's more on character, and it wasn't really just built for wrestling. It was more on the storytelling and stuff. And then I think we all realized that I had more to offer on the character side. And then that's kind of where things kind of got slowly moving. And then also be able to be on the shows and stuff and having matches, because that's all we could do at the time, was to be able to put out whatever we had. And I think that got a lot of eyes on myself with The Office, which was great. You know what I mean? I think whatever opportunity I was given, I made sure I gave me all. And I think they kind of understood that. And honestly, I think my attitude about that too has kind of kept me around for as long as I've been.
What was Wrestle House like? Because for fans, that was madness.
At madness as a good thing?
Oh, good madness. But considering everything that was going on, it was madness.
It was great. I mean, like I said, like it gave a lot of people that weren't really shine in the weekly thing, like an opportunity to shine. Like if you look back now, like Wrestle House 1 had like Jake something and like Cody Diener and myself, and like now fast forward and look at what we're doing on the weekly show now. It's just, I really think it was a breakthrough for a lot of people that really were struggling at the time, and I think it was just literally, like I said, a blessing in disguise for a lot of us.
Throughout the whole kind of time with TNA, or Impact as it was then, not only has Eddie's character evolved, but your character has evolved, but separately. So what's that kind of been like? When you're at home, do you kind of discuss things, or is it just separate?
No, I think that's why we've been together so long and why we're happily married, is that we actually shut wrestling off when we come home. If we have wrestling on all the time, like I think it'll just drain us and not be able to have us do it. I mean, like right now, it's like really a part of our job and we're killing it. And there's a lot of work outside of wrestling that we discuss. But I think the more we limited wrestling out at home, I think is great. But yeah, I mean, it's also good to just be able to have them there, because like if there's things that I like, hey, does this work, you think? Or like, you know what I mean? Like this. And also like, I mean, it's great with my husband being there, but we have a really good locker room to be able to like run a lot of ideas off of people and like, you know, hey, does this work? Or do you think this works? And I have a lot of good friends in the locker room where like they're rooting for me, and, you know, and I think like the camaraderie is where it all comes down to. And I think that helps to kind of keep like, you know, our job is our job, but when we go home, we can kind of take a break a little bit. And then when we come to work, there's like that support system that helps you kind of like create those things. So it's been great.
Now the latest evolution of you is becoming TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champion.
Yes.
So what was that moment like for you? Because that was your first major title, really, wasn't it?
Correct. It was my first major title, and then it actually took me like, I don't know, like almost, I mean, I hate saying how many years I've been wrestling, but it's over 15 years at this point. So it's great. I mean, like, I don't know if I fully processed it yet, because we're literally it. Like, you know, everyone says, oh my God, you get the title, like things change, and it really doesn't. Like the hard work comes involved with it, right? So once we got the titles, it's like, all right, let's go. We got to just keep the ball rolling. So like, honestly, it's been great. I've been soaking in every minute of it. And like I said, I try to take each and every opportunity and just give it my all. So it's been wonderful. I mean, Masha is great. Like she's definitely killing it on the indies and in TNA. And I'm hoping to do the same. So, I mean, being partnered with her has been obviously, you know, I thought of it as a business point of view kind of thing, just to get a title for the system. But now that we're killing it and each and every time we're just dominating, I think like, you know, I say we keep these titles until 2025, really.
Tell me about the system. Like that group has also gone through a lot of evolution, and now it's kind of one of the biggest factions in TNA. So what's it like being a part of that? And what does the future hold for that group?
I think the future is definitely endless at this point. I mean, we're all good friends in real life, and I think that's what makes it naturally and organically better than all the other factions. I mean, I do know that we were compared to a lot of the main event mafia and all those things, but like I really think like we're different than everybody. We bring a lot of experience. We have a lot of different qualities to bring to the table. You know what I mean? And I think that's what makes us the total package of it makes us different from everybody else. Is like, you know, anyone could just like, hey, I'm a champion, I'm great, but like we have stuff to back it up. You know what I mean? Like Eddie and Moose has been, you know, faces of TNA since they've been here, and like Myers came and like he took over too. Like, and I feel like I've earned my spot. So it's like at the end of the day, like who's gonna come at us and say we're not wrong?
Now that you're a tag team champion, obviously Eddie is known to a lot of fans as being a proper tag team wrestler, one of the best to ever do it. Has he given you any tips or advice?
Oh, it's so funny because I was just talking to him the other night about, I'm like, hey, do you think we should do this that you used to do and like and stuff like that? So yeah, I mean, sometimes we're so like busy at work, I forget. Like it's not that I forget that he's one of the best wrestlers ever, but I feel like he's like, I don't want to feel like, you know, abuse that fact that I have that at home kind of thing. And sometimes I guess I should reach out a little bit more. I mean, come on, he's like, I don't know how many times he's been tag team champ, but it's definitely been more than my one title.
I mean, I saw him and Davey wrestle several times on the UK tours and stuff, and the two of them are great. Yeah. So take the advice.
Yes. So yeah, lesson learned. I will definitely ask him more ways of me and Masha dominating the tag division.
I mean, you could change your name into the She-Wolves. It would make sense.
Oh, I don't know.
Although I think that may be a team on the British indie scene. Anyway, so what does the future hold for you then with TNA? Are you looking at singles championships in the future or not?
Oh, of course. I mean, like that's on everyone's bucket list to be the face of the division, right? Entirely. So like if that means, you know, I have to go after Jordan Grace, then I'll have to go after Jordan Grace. But like I said, and I think like my past kind of explains everything, like I'm not in a rush. Like I'm going to wait for that perfect time and that perfect opportunity. So if it takes me 3 years or if it takes me 3 months, like I'm willing to put in the waiting game to get what I want. So whoever has that title for when it's my time to come for it, like they just need to be careful.
And I guess with TNA, it is now the center of the Forbidden Door universe. It always has been, but now even more so with like NXT. Have you got an eye on maybe any challenges in NXT or making an appearance there or anything like that?
I mean, that's not my focus. My focus is TNA solely and entirely. I'm excited for the collaboration with WWE and NXT. I think it brings a lot of eyes to the TNA product. I don't need to go jump shift to show them what we can do as a system, right? So like if anybody wants to come to TNA and step up to the system, then, you know, there's the door. The door is widely open for anybody to come in. So I'm game for anything. But I mean, my focus is to keep the boys at TNA and make sure that we're the most dominated faction and we're holding it and running the place. So like, that's where my focus is.
I think in terms of the system, I think the partnership with NXT, a lot of people are surprised that it's both ways. So, you know, we've already seen people come into TNA. What's that been like for the locker room and how do you see that for your future career and also for the system, like unlimited challenges, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, it opens the doors for a lot of things, more jobs, more opportunities, more like eyes on each product. And like, I really think like it's also like, I don't know, like when I first came to Impact or TNA, like we were always the black sheep of the wrestling world. But now I think it just kind of like shows that we've never been the black sheep of the wrestling world and we're not going nowhere. So, I mean, it's great. And I mean, it creates endless opportunities and possibilities for everybody on the roster. So I think at this point, like I'm game for anything and everything.
Did the Joe Hendry appearance, you know, when you say TNA was the black sheep, but when Joe Hendry appeared in NXT, it's like the whole crowd knew who he was. Everybody knows, because I guess everybody essentially does watch TNA. So that must have been a big boost.
Well, yeah, they're just afraid to say they do. That's the problem. Like, yeah. I mean, like, I think a lot of people, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a stigma against TNA or whatever the case may be, but like, we're happening right now. Like, you know what I mean? And like, anytime someone leaves us to go somewhere else, like they know who that person is. And if that's and that just shows that we do what we need to do, and we're not, the black sheep, and we're actually running the game, really. Like we're connecting all kinds of things to wrestling. So
yeah.
I mean, I bleed for TNA, so I can keep on talking about how great we are.
Okay, so we'll go with that one. What is it that makes TNA so special then?
I think it's the total package. I mean, I think we're able to, create stars. I think stars come to us. I think we have stars as a whole. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we have the character, we have the storytelling, we have like the 5-star matches, we have the X division, we have the knockouts. Like, we literally have everything and everything. Like, I don't know any fan to argue with to tell me different. So like, I don't know where that comes, but I really think we're just the total package of wrestling.
It does feel like no matter who's been in charge, who's owned it, who's been on screen, kind of in charge, whatever, it's always had the in-ring product. It's always had that solid wrestling. That must be great to be able to just go out and do what you know you can do.
Yes, and being able to have the creative freedom. I'm sure you've talked to a lot of wrestlers, and like that's always been like an issue some places and some people don't like. And I really think a lot of the time is just being able to like try things out. They'd be able to like, hey, this might work, this might not work, or just having that freedom, I think is just really like the icing on the cake of where TNA is and why people come to where they can be able to get that aspect in their career.
So last couple of questions. Who would you want to face in TNA now that the Forbidden Door is open, be it from TNA or outside?
I was just asked this earlier, and I'm going to stick with my same answer. I want a rematch with Naomi and Trin. Like, I don't think I was fairly awarded what I was supposed to get, which was that Knockouts title in September of last year. So I will love to have a rematch with her, whether it's in a TNA ring or if it's in a WWE ring or even an NXT ring.
What about as a tag team?
So I'm not really worried about any of the tag teams they have there. So like literally they can bring anyone and everyone. Like I said, like I'm about like I want to elevate the tag division. I want to elevate the knockout division, and if it means to bring in every tag team that they have, like, so be it.
Last two questions. First of all, when you come to the UK and you do UK tours, what's your favorite thing about the UK?
So, fun fact, I've never been to the UK ever and never did a wrestling tour. So that is on my I'm manifesting that. I'm manifesting that there's a UK tour at the end of the year, and it would be my first one, and I can win a title or bring my title. Either one. That's what I'm manifesting. So let's make it happen. You and Adam, so you better be praying at the end of the night, every night, until we come back, that Lish comes back with a title for the UK for her first UK tour.
I am confident we can make that happen.
All right.
And last question. If you take the Alisha Edwards from 2006, when you first got into a ring, to the one now, what's the biggest difference and what's the biggest thing you've learned about yourself?
Confidence. Being able to know that, like, no matter what other people bring to the table, I have my strengths and I can bring something to the table. It took a lot. Like, I'm still learning as I go, but like, I think the way, like, I had all that experience before coming to TV. I had no TV experience, and I kind of like laid back, and then I earned my spot, and then now I'm on my spot. Like, honestly, I think the confidence has been a huge change and a game changer for me. But again, it's still a learning process. So I would say that, actually, being able to, being confident of saying, like, I've earned my spot, I can do this, and being able to say I can't do something is also another thing. Like, when I was younger, I was like, oh, I could do all of it. I'm like, well, not really. You know what I mean? Like, you can't really do that. Like, and that comes down to, like, I always wanted to try these fancy other moves and stuff, like, but that's not my character and that's not me. So why try to be someone else? So I think that's where the confidence and being able to just accept what I can bring.
Cool. All right. Well, tell people where they can follow you on socials and stuff.
Twitter, Instagram, Mrs. AIP Alisha. And then again, like, I like to plug in TNA in there. Anything with live events, you need to catch us out, come into your location. TNAWrestling.com, and also make sure you visit our TNA merch.com as well. A bunch of cool merch on there, including a new Knockouts t-shirt. So
cool. All right, brilliant. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
TNA